I noticed it the moment I stepped on the rug. My socks. Not mine. Technically, the same brand, same faded navy color, same worn-out heel, but not the pair I had just taken off that morning. Mine were in the hamper. Damp. These were warm. Someone else had worn my socks. In my house. In my space. And Meredith didn't even flinch. She was standing by the kitchen counter, texting. Her phone lit up her face like she was being interrogated. Her eyes didn't rise when I dropped the socks next to her glass of wine. I found these under the couch, I said quietly. Still nothing. It wasn't anger I felt. Not yet. Just a cold realization that I was becoming something else in my own home. A placeholder. An observer. Are you going to tell me whose feet were in them? I asked, this time with a little more edge in my voice. That's when she finally looked at me and said the sentence that changed everything. Can we talk about this like adults? Because I want to make a suggestion. No apology. No denial. No attempt to explain how another man's socks found sanctuary under our couch cushions. I stood there in silence. I didn't trust my voice. She sighed, as if I was the one being unreasonable, then reached for her wine and walked toward the bedroom. Not to hide, not to cry, but to sit, like we were negotiating rent. I've been thinking, she began, crossing her legs like she was about to pitch a marketing strategy. We've been in a rut. I know you feel it too. And I met someone. I blinked. She continued. His name is Jonah. He's kind, open-minded, and he's helped me see things differently. Things I didn't even know I needed. I couldn't move. She went on, calmly, casually. I want to invite him into our bed. Just once. But with your permission. I think it could help us. Help us? That's what she said. Like I was supposed to nod, pour another glass, and be the understanding husband who claps from the sidelines while another man trespasses my marriage. I couldn't speak, but I could hear something in my head. A dull hum, like static, or pressure. Meredith, I finally whispered. Do you even hear yourself? She stared at me like I was the one who'd lost touch. That's when I gave her the only thing I had left, a quiet line I'd been holding back for months. If he crosses that threshold, I won't be here when you wake up. She smirked, not cruelly, but confidently, as if she didn't believe me. But I meant every word. And as I was about to learn, she didn't just invite him in. She unlocked the door, lit the candles, and left it wide open. I didn't sleep that night, not even a little. I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, listening to it click, click, click like it was counting down to something inevitable. Meredith slept next to me, completely undisturbed, her breath slow and even. She had offered me emotional demolition like it was a lifestyle suggestion, and then had the audacity to sleep like a rock. The only thing between us was the blanket, but it might as well have been a wall made of brick and ash. By morning, I had decided two things. First, I wasn't going to fight for someone who was actively opening the door for another man. Second, I wasn't going to make it easy, either. I took the day off work, called in sick. I didn't have a plan, but I had adrenaline. I kept thinking maybe it was all a test. Some twisted, see how much you care kind of scenario. That if I reacted like a maniac, she'd call me controlling, and if I stayed quiet, she'd call me cold. Either way, I was meant to lose. But I didn't expect him to show up that night. Not so soon. Not like this. It was around 6:50 p.m. I was in the kitchen, pretending to scrub the same plate for 10 straight minutes. Meredith walked in from the hallway, wearing a navy silk robe she hadn't worn in months. Her hair was damp. Her lips were glossy. She didn't even look at me when she said it. He'll be here in 10. I dropped the plate. It didn't shatter. Just clanged into the sink and spun loudly like it was stunned, too. Excuse me, I asked, turning to her slowly. She finally looked at me, but her eyes were distant, almost clinical. I told you, she said flatly. I want you to be here, to see that it's not threatening, that this isn't about replacing you. It's about experiencing something different. Together. Together? I whispered. You want me to watch? I want you to understand, she said. That love isn't about ownership. She said that with such unbearable calm that it made me wonder if she had rehearsed it. Maybe she and Jonah had practiced the lines together, preparing for how I might react. My legs carried me to the living room without thinking. I sat down in the corner chair, the one that used to be mine before her yoga mat took its place, and stared at the front door. It didn't take 10 minutes. It took 7. At exactly 6:57, I heard a knock. A friendly one, like he was here to borrow sugar. Meredith smiled. She actually smiled. And I sat there, cowardly, frozen. I hate myself for it, but I needed to see what kind of man could step into another couple's home like this and feel no shame. She opened the door, and there he was, Jonah. He was taller than me, bearded, wore a maroon button-up and white sneakers like he was here for wine and a documentary. He had the nerve to hold a bottle of Merlot in one hand and a dessert box in the other. "Evening," he said with a casual nod, stepping inside like he belonged. I didn't stand up. He saw me, registered me, then looked away like I was just furniture. That was when I snapped. Not with fists, not with shouting, but with something far, far colder. I stood, finally, and walked past him, right up to Meredith. I looked her in the eye, and I saw it then. That flicker, that brief second where her confidence cracked. Because I smiled. "Great," I said. "You've both arrived. Just wait here for a second." She blinked. Wait for what? I walked into the bedroom and came out holding a box. A shoebox. Not mine, hers. Inside was a stack of folded papers. Bank statements. Car title. The lease. I dropped it all on the table. "Sign this," I said, placing a single sheet on top. "It's a notice. You have 3 days to vacate." Jonah scoffed. Meredith's mouth fell open. "You're kicking me out?" she stammered. I tilted my head. "No. I'm telling you. If you want him in our bed, you'll need to find a new one." I turned to Jonah. "And if you're really so brave, try doing it without using another man's home as your playground." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I grabbed my coat and keys and walked out the door. No yelling. No threats. No chaos. Just the sound of stunned silence behind me. But I wasn't done. Because I had one more surprise for both of them. I didn't drive far. Just a few blocks down to the old train station parking lot, where I could park under the flickering orange light and stare at the cracked windshield I still hadn't fixed. I don't know what it is about sitting in your car after a disaster, but it makes things feel quieter, like the radio silence between explosions in a war zone. I just sat there, still holding the pen she didn't take, the one I had dropped on the table with the notice, the one she ignored while standing next to her new hobby in a maroon shirt. She didn't follow me out. I waited. 10 minutes. Then 20. I kept thinking maybe she'd run after me. Maybe she'd shout, or cry, or say she was sorry. But the door never opened. No footsteps. No apologies. She stayed inside. With him. That told me everything I needed to know. I drove to a 24-hour diner. Not to eat, just to sit. I used the free Wi-Fi and pulled up the email I drafted 3 days earlier but hadn't sent yet. The subject line was simple. Incident report, tenant violation, for 11 Baxter Street. The recipient? Our landlord. I had done my homework. And the lease, the one I had signed with my money when we first moved in, had a specific clause about cohabitation and unauthorized guests. Meredith never bothered to read it. She just assumed the apartment was ours forever. She was wrong. Before I hit send, I attached the images, a photo of Jonah's sneakers on our entryway rug, his wine bottle on our dining table, and the video clip from the nanny cam I'd hidden behind the bookshelf. That one showed him walking into the bedroom. I'd installed it weeks ago when I suspected something was off. She thought it was just a Wi-Fi extender. I clicked send. It felt small, petty even, but I was tired of being the one left to eat cold dinners and fake smiles. If she wanted Jonah, she could have him, just not under my roof. Back at Trevor's place, my brother was in the kitchen microwaving leftover ribs. He didn't even flinch when I walked in like a ghost. "You good?" he asked, not turning around. "No," I said, sinking into his sunken recliner. "But I've decided to be done." He nodded once. "She texted you yet?" I looked down at my phone. Not a single message. And that stung more than I expected. Until the next morning. Because that's when the text started. Not from Meredith. From Jonah. The first one was at 7:13 a.m. "Hey man, we should talk. This isn't what you think." The second, 10 minutes later. "I didn't know she didn't talk to you about the lease stuff. Sorry if it got weird." And then the last one, a little more panicked. "She's crying. Says she's going to lose the apartment. Can we just work this out?" I didn't answer. I didn't block him either. I wanted him to stew. By noon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Voicemail. "Mr. Barrett, this is Janet from Wilcox Properties. We received a report regarding multiple violations at your listed address. I'd like to schedule an inspection for early next week. Please confirm access or we'll proceed based on Clause 14A. That meant they were serious. and Meredith would find out soon enough what that meant. I sat back and stared at the ceiling of Trevor's place, feeling something strange in my chest. Not revenge, not triumph, but clarity. A new voice had started forming in my head, one that whispered, "You don't have to go back." But as I finally closed my eyes to rest, my phone lit up. This time, it was from Meredith. One line. No hi. No apology. Just, "Don't do this. I didn't choose him over you. Not yet." Not yet. Those two words stuck to my brain like wet cement. I stared at her message until the screen went dark. And that's when I realized she still thought she had control. She didn't know what I'd already done. And she definitely didn't know what I was planning next. I didn't reply to her message. I let her sit with it. "Don't do this. I didn't choose him over you. Not yet." It was almost laughable. Like I was supposed to thank her for still dangling the option of loyalty in front of me. Not yet. As if that was mercy. As if betrayal didn't start the moment she opened the door to another man and called it progress. I spent the rest of that day in a haze. Not angry. Not broken. Just focused. I began sorting through things I hadn't looked at in years. Paperwork, emails, insurance policies. Because while Meredith thought this was a standoff between emotions, I was making it legal. Our apartment was still in my name. The utilities? Also mine. The parking pass? Lease terms? Internet account? All mine. She never cared about that stuff. She was the vision person, always too busy or burnt out from work to deal with the boring grown-up tasks. I handled them all while she chased conferences and coffee dates and half-finished self-help books. And now, that neglect was her unraveling. The first blow landed when the landlord's assistant called her directly. I knew they would. That's how this process worked. They needed to notify all listed residents, except Meredith wasn't on the lease. From what I heard later, she panicked, called them back, claimed there had been a mistake, that she lived there. Of course she did. She'd been there for years. But policy was policy. She had no legal footing, and the inspection was already scheduled. She texted me again that night. This time, it was longer. "I don't understand why you're being like this. I thought we were going to talk like adults. You just disappeared. You embarrassed me in front of him. This isn't who you are, Nolan." "No, Meredith. This is who I am. The version you didn't think existed. The one you dismissed every time I asked, 'Are we okay?' And you replied, 'I'm just tired.'" She called next. I let it ring out. Then came the voicemail. "Nolan, please. Just come home. We don't have to do anything. We can just talk. I miss you. He's not staying here, okay? It was just one night. Just a night. That's all. Just a night." The way she said it, like it was a parking ticket. A harmless blip on the radar. I didn't reply. The next morning, I did something that felt equal parts cruel and necessary. I scheduled a storage unit. One of the smaller ones. Just enough space for her things. Trevor drove me back to the apartment. I told him to wait in the car. I had a key. Of course I did. And when I opened the door, the living room was silent. Candles half burnt on the table. The wine bottle still corked. Her robe slung over the armrest like a limp flag. She wasn't home. Good. I moved fast. I started in the bedroom. Pulled out her clothes. Folded most of them. Stuffed others. Jewelry. Makeup drawers. Her charger. Her vision board with the word "Align" across the top in gold letters. I packed it all. Carefully. But not tenderly. When I was almost done, I opened the closet, and there it was again. That second pair of socks. Still warm the last time I saw them. This time, I bagged them. A reminder. I left a single sheet of paper on the kitchen counter. Her copy of the lease clause, the one she never bothered to read. I circled the part about unauthorized guests and tenancy violations. Beneath it, I added, "Your items are in Unit 302 at Falcon Storage. Paid for 30 days. After that, it's yours to figure out. Like everything else." I didn't slam the door when I left. I locked it. Tight. And then, I texted her back. Just one sentence. "This was never your house. You were just comfortable treating it like one." 2 minutes later, she called. Again. I turned off my phone. It was quiet in Trevor's car. He didn't ask what happened. He just looked at the key in my hand and said, "You done?" "Not yet," I replied. Because the house was just step one. There was still her reputation to think about. And I wasn't going to say a word. But I knew someone else who would. 3 days passed before she stopped trying to contact me. No more texts. No more voicemails. Just dead air. I should have felt relieved, maybe even victorious. but it didn't feel like a win. It felt like that weird calm you get before a storm. The kind you don't trust because you know it's hiding something worse. I hadn't seen her since I cleared the apartment. I imagined her showing up, panicking, spinning stories about miscommunication, betrayal, emotional neglect. All the usual ways people rewrite the truth to fit their own comfort. But she hadn't shown her face. Not at the apartment. Not at Trevor's. Not even at my office. That silence, it didn't feel like surrender. It felt like planning. So I stayed low. Waited. And then, out of nowhere, I got a call from someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year. Valerie. Meredith's best friend. Maid of honor. Godmother to our dog. She and I had always had an odd dynamic. Warm, but distant. Like she didn't quite approve of me, but tolerated me because I was Meredith's safe choice. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Nolan, she said, her voice tight, rushed. Valerie. Hi. I know this is weird, but I need to talk to you. In person. I blinked. You and I have never talked in person. I know. That's why it matters. There was something in her tone. Urgency, sure, but also guilt. Like she'd been holding something heavy for too long and finally decided to drop it. We met at a bookstore cafe the next morning. She looked tired. Pale, like she hadn't slept. She didn't even sit down before blurting it out. She's lying to everyone, Valerie said. She's telling people you just abandoned her. That you cheated. That you lost your mind. I can't listen to it anymore. I stared at her. She said I cheated? Valerie nodded. Told her boss that you got involved with a coworker and then tried to evict her out of spite. She even said you threatened her safety. I laughed hard. The kind of laugh you don't plan. The bitter kind. And people believed that. Some. But not me. Not after what I saw. I narrowed my eyes. What you saw? Valerie hesitated. Then pulled out her phone. I shouldn't have recorded it. But that night, when Jonah showed up, I was there. I came to drop off some books I borrowed, and I walked in through the back like I always did. I heard the conversation. I saw you walk out. I saw the way she looked at Jonah afterward. She unlocked her phone, opened a video, handed it to me. I watched. The screen showed my living room. A sliver of the bedroom hallway. Meredith and Jonah sitting on the couch. Jonah looked confused, even a little uncomfortable. Meredith, on the other hand, looked like a CEO closing a deal. And then I heard it. I told him it was just a conversation. But Nolan's spineless. He walked out like a puppy. He'll be back. He always comes back. I paused the video. Valerie sat down across from me. I didn't know what to do with this. But when she started rewriting the whole thing and making you out to be abusive, I couldn't keep quiet. I sat in silence. The betrayal wasn't even sharp anymore. It was dull, deep, rotting. Like something had died inside me months ago, and I was only now digging it up. Why now? I asked. Why come to me at all? Valerie looked away. Because she said something about going after your job. Said you'd ruined her housing, so she was going to even it out. She's already talking to HR at your company. She knows someone there, apparently. And there it was. Meredith couldn't just move on. She had to burn it all down. And I wasn't going to let her. I stood up, walked to the window, breathed deep. You okay? Valerie asked quietly. I turned back to her. My voice was calm. Too calm. I'm going to do something I never thought I'd do. Which is, use the truth. Her eyes widened. You're going public? No, I said. But someone else is. She tilted her head. Who? I gave a small, hollow smile. The people she works for. The nonprofit board. The same board that doesn't know she invited a stranger into a married home while using donor-funded housing as her private dating suite. Valerie went quiet. You're going to leak the video? Not yet. But they'll ask for context when the inspection fails and she loses the apartment. And when they do, I'll give it to them. With timestamps. With screenshots. With her own words. Valerie leaned back, processing. You really loved her, didn't you? I didn't answer. Because love wasn't the question anymore. Now it was about consequences. And I had only just begun. It started with an email. Just one. No subject line. No name. Just a forward from an unknown address with a short note attached. You should know who you hired. It was sent to every executive in Meredith's office. The board chair. The donors. Even the HR director. The attachment? That same video Valerie showed me. The one where Meredith mocked me after I walked out, bragging that she could twist the truth and make me crawl back. I hadn't sent it. I swear I hadn't. But someone had. The first time I saw it was the same morning she called me 37 times. I ignored the first 36. On the 37th, curiosity got the better of me. I answered. Her voice was shredded, not soft, not confident, just hollow. What did you do, Nolan? I didn't do anything, I said flatly, though I already suspected Valerie might have finally decided to intervene. Don't lie to me, she snapped. The board saw it. They called me into a meeting and… She stopped mid-sentence, voice cracking. They suspended me. Pending review. For a second, I felt bad. Just a flicker of pity, like muscle memory from an old life. Then I remembered her robe, the candles, the smirk when she said Jonah's name, and the pity dissolved like salt in rainwater. What happens next? I asked, pretending to care. You're enjoying this, aren't you? She hissed. You wanted to ruin me because I embarrassed you. You always needed control. Her favorite word, control. She used it like a shield, as if my boundaries were power plays and her betrayals were self-expression. You invited another man into our bed, I said quietly. I just refused to watch. There was silence. Then a whisper. You're cruel. She hung up. I sat in Trevor's kitchen, phone still in my hand, staring at the black screen. I didn't feel cruel. I felt finished. That strange calm again. The kind that comes after the noise stops and you realize the world hasn't ended. It's just rearranged. Later that afternoon, Valerie texted me. It wasn't me. Someone else must have sent it. She's telling everyone you hacked her cloud. I typed back. Let her. That night, I went back to the apartment. Not to gloat, not even to collect anything. Just to see the wreckage. The place looked smaller. Like the walls had absorbed the arguments. Her shoes were gone. Her scent too. The only thing left was a single note taped to the fridge. You won't always win, Nolan. You're just better at hiding the damage. I folded it, pocketed it, and sat on the floor for a long time. I wondered if she was right. If maybe this victory wasn't won at all, just a prettier form of failure. I was still thinking that when my phone buzzed again, this time with a text from a number I didn't recognize. She's at my place. She's not okay. Please call her. It was from Jonah. For a moment, I almost laughed. The man who wore my socks and drank my wine was now babysitting my ex-wife. The irony was too thick to taste. But curiosity is a stubborn disease. I called him. He answered immediately. Hey man, look, I don't want trouble. But she's in bad shape. She's saying crazy stuff about quitting, leaving the country, filing charges. I don't even know what's real anymore. I rubbed my forehead. You're the one who walked into my home, Jonah. You think I'm the one who's unstable? He didn't argue, just sighed. She told me she still loves you. That stopped me. For the first time in weeks, I didn't know what to say. Yeah, I muttered after a while. She loves the version of me she can blame. The one who forgives. He went quiet. Then, she asked me to tell you she's sorry. Tell her I said don't be. I replied. This isn't regret. It's gravity. Everything that goes up has to come down, he finished softly. Exactly. I hung up. When I left the apartment for the last time, I didn't look back. I didn't even turn off the lights. I just walked into the night with her notes still in my pocket, wondering if she'd ever understand that this wasn't revenge. It was simply the end of pretending. And yet, even as I reached my car, I had that gnawing feeling again, like something was still unfinished. Because Meredith never disappeared quietly. And part of me knew she wasn't done with me yet. I had started to believe it was over. After weeks of unraveling, after eviction notices and voicemail threats, after videos leaked and reputations cracked, I thought we'd finally reached the bitter, quiet end. The kind that doesn't need a closing line, just distance. But Meredith never accepted silence. Not when she could replace it with spectacle. It was a Friday afternoon, warm and dry. Trevor had gone out for groceries, and I was alone in his apartment, trying to decide if reheating frozen lasagna for the fourth night in a row counted as a meal. I was halfway through scrolling delivery apps when there was a knock at the door. Not loud, not aggressive, just soft, deliberate. I didn't move right away. I've learned that people don't knock gently when they're bringing good news. The second knock came, and this time I stood, walked slowly to the door. I almost didn't open it. But I did, and there she was. Meredith. No makeup. Her hair was pulled into a loose, careless bun. She wore a long gray cardigan I hadn't seen since our second anniversary, the one she always claimed was too sentimental. She looked nothing like the version of her that had invited another man into our bed. She looked unmade. Hi. she said, voice barely a whisper. I leaned on the frame, but didn't step aside. I'm not here to fight, she said quickly. I just need 10 minutes. 10 minutes for what? I asked. To tell me I misunderstood the sock drawer? Or that Jonah's just a misunderstood wine guy? She didn't flinch. I'm pregnant. That landed like a sledgehammer. I didn't blink. Didn't breathe. What? She nodded. Slowly. 2 tests. Both positive. Blood confirmed it yesterday. I didn't know how to say it. Or if I should. I stared at her, every thought crashing into the next. And then the question slipped out, ugly and raw. Is it mine? She looked down. I don't know. The honesty of it made my stomach churn. I'm not asking for anything, she added quickly. I'm not here to manipulate you. You needed to know. I wanted to scream, to grab a chair and throw it through a wall. But I didn't. I stood there, numb, trying to figure out how to feel something other than betrayal layered with confusion. Why now? I asked. Why not just vanish like you wanted to? She hesitated. Because no matter what happens, this part includes you. Whether you want it to or not. No, I said. You don't get to decide that. You don't get to burn down a home and then hand me the ashes like they're ours. I'm not asking you to be part of it, she repeated. I just needed to look you in the eye and say it. So you know why I'm going. Going where? Her lip trembled. North Carolina. My sister offered me a spare room. I've already sent in my resignation. I'm leaving in 4 days. And just like that, she was untangling herself from the ruins she helped build. You want a fresh start? I asked. After everything? I don't expect to escape the consequences, Nolan, she said. But I also can't stay here. Everyone looks at me like I'm radioactive. My job's gone. My lease is gone. Jonas. I haven't seen him since the video. He ghosted. Probably for the best. I folded my arms, trying to steady my breath. You think running fixes this? No, she whispered. I think it's the only way to stop making it worse. She turned, walked halfway down the hallway, then paused. I never planned to fall out of love with you, she said without facing me. But I did. And then I panicked. And I handled it in the worst way imaginable. I hurt you. I know that. I'll live with it. But if it is yours, I'll tell you. I promise. Then she left. No hug. No tears. No manipulation. Just a woman carrying a consequence. I closed the door. Locked it. Sat on the couch and stared at nothing. Pregnant. Possibly mine. Probably not. Leaving in 4 days. I should have been relieved that she was finally walking away. But I wasn't. Because part of me wasn't convinced that was the last knock I'd hear. And part of me couldn't stop wondering what I'd do if that child was mine. The days after Meredith left weren't loud. They were oddly peaceful. No more texts. No calls. No late-night voicemail drama. The apartment stayed quiet. And for the first time in months, so did my head. I slept. Really slept. Not the kind where you toss and turn and dream of old arguments. But full, empty, healing sleep. She was gone. North Carolina, like she promised. Her sister confirmed it. I didn't even have to ask, Valerie told me. Apparently, Meredith reached out to a few people before leaving, trying to make things right in her own clumsy way. Whether they accepted it or not was their choice. I didn't care. I'd made my peace with her departure. The only piece left dangling was the question. The baby. A week after she left, I got the envelope. Not dramatic. Just standard white. No return address, but I recognized her handwriting. Inside, a photocopy of the ultrasound. A sticky note on top. It's not yours. I'm sorry for everything. Please be well. That should have been the emotional climax. The final blow, the big twist. But it wasn't. It was a sigh of relief. Quiet, guiltless relief. Because now I was truly free. No threads. No ties. No what-ifs. Just space. And silence. And possibility. I moved out of Trevor's place the following week. Got a small one-bedroom near the west side of town, near the trail where I used to walk Peaches. Funny enough, the first thing I did was fix the closet door. The one thing Meredith and I had ignored for years. It didn't creak anymore. Valerie helped me carry boxes. She didn't have to. I didn't even ask. She just showed up with coffee and a tight ponytail, like she was on a mission. You don't have to carry all this alone, she said. Physically or emotionally? I asked, half laughing. She grinned. Both. We ended up sitting on the floor surrounded by bubble wrap and cardboard. The conversation drifted between safe topics. Movies, furniture, her job, my job. Eventually, we landed on the obvious. Do you think she'll come back? Valerie asked. She already did, I said. But not for me. She came back to end something. And I let her. Valerie nodded like she understood more than she let on. Then she looked at me carefully, almost nervously. You know, I always thought you were too soft for her. That's not an insult. I mean, Meredith likes to control the room. You let the room be whatever it wants to be. I shrugged. Yeah, and that was my biggest mistake. I stopped shaping my own space. Well, she said, brushing some dust off her jeans. Maybe this time, you'll make a space where you're not just allowed to breathe. You'll be expected to. I looked at her for a long moment. And for the first time in what felt like years, I felt something other than resentment. I felt gratitude. You hungry? I asked. Starving. I made us grilled cheese sandwiches. Burned one side of hers. She didn't complain. Later that night, as she was leaving, she paused in the doorway. You know, she said with a teasing smile. For a guy whose wife tried to turn their bedroom into a hotel lobby, you turned out surprisingly okay. Work in progress, I replied. She stepped out, then turned. Let me know when you're ready for a fresh chapter. I already started it, I said. She smiled. Good. And with that, she walked off into the cool night air. Not as a replacement. Not as a rebound. Just as someone who saw me. For who I was. And not for what I failed to be. That night, I left the window open. Let the breeze in. Let the past out. And I didn't check my phone once. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting on anyone. I was already home.